Released for the new Nintendo 3DS and the Nintendo Switch in Japan on September 28, 2017, followed by the rest of the world on October 20th, 2017, we have Fire Emblem Warriors. Co-developed by Omega Force and Team Ninja, both being separate divisions of Koei Tecmo, and published by Koei Tecmo in Japan with Nintendo handling publication in the West, Fire Emblem Warriors is a hack-and-slash game much like Dynasty Warriors, the franchise that Omega Force is best known for. This isn't the first time a Nintendo franchise has been subject to the Warriors treatment either, as The Legend of Zelda was also given that treatment back in 2014 with Hyrule Warriors being the end result. However, unlike The Legend of Zelda, which was a role-playing game, the Fire Emblem games were tactical strategy games with role-playing elements to them. For this review I'll be covering the Nintendo Switch version of the game. The game follows an original story starring the twin prince and princess of Aetolis, Prince Rowan and Princess Leanna. One day as they're training with their friend Prince Darius from the Kingdom of Gristone, monsters suddenly appear and attack the castle. During the attack, the twins are separated from their mother, the Queen, who gives them the Shield of Flames, see also the Fire Emblem, to take to the temple. Along the way, the twins will befriend characters from some of the Fire Emblem games to aid them in their journey while finding a way to return home themselves. But is this game any good? Find out in The Good. The way this game expands on the Dynasty Warriors formula is certainly one I can get behind. The game incorporates a number of mechanics from the Fire Emblem series and with good results. The weapon triangle from Fire Emblem, in which swords beat axes, axes beat spears, and spears beat swords, has been featured in the game, where if you have a weapon advantage, you can deal more damage and get critical hits easier. If you happen to use a weapon at a disadvantage, you may find yourself fighting an uphill battle. Weapons are also available in different rarities, with bronze being the weakest and silver being the strongest. You can even add effects to the weapons, with some doing additional damage to certain types of units, some increasing drops of weapons and items, and others even reversing the weapon triangle, to name a few. Another feature added in that I quite liked was the ability to command fellow units in battle. Your allies can be told to move to different areas of the map, attack enemies, guard a location, or even heal other characters. Some allies you're able to switch control to if you need to handle things personally. The pairing system from Fire Emblem Awakening makes a reappearance, and you can pair up your characters together to launch more powerful special attacks, or to even switch characters if you're faced with a weapon disadvantage. The game also features flying units such as Pegasus Knights and Wyvern Knights. These characters are able to fly over inaccessible paths on the map, and are very handy when transporting other characters. This is however offset by their weakness to archer units. Special units such as archers and mages don't follow the weapon triangle but aren't as effective against other units. You can also promote units using a master seal that you can obtain as a reward in stages to more powerful classes, providing they're at least level 15. Unlike the games, the units don't revert back to level 1, and promoted units gain a huge increase to their stats. To add some challenge to the game also features Fire Emblem's Classic mode, in which if a character falls in battle, they're unavailable for the remainder of the story. Thankfully, you can pay money to restore them at the temple. The game's combination of Fire Emblem mechanics and Dynasty Warriors mechanics really work well together, and is easily the standout feature of the game. With that being said though, there's more to the game than just the good aspects, so let's look at the bad. I can't say I'm a huge fan of the game's cast. The cast is essentially made up of heroes from Fire Emblem Awakening, Fates, and Shadow Dragon, which in itself was a remake of the first and third Fire Emblem games. There were several other games from the series you could have grabbed characters from, and while the game does feature Celica from Fire Emblem Gaiden and Lyn from Fire Emblem The Blazing Blade, I felt their inclusion was just to ensure the cast wasn't entirely from Awakening, Fates, and Shadow Dragon. Doesn't help that Celica and Lyn are only available after you beat the story and complete their historic maps. I can sort of understand how Awakening and Fates really tie into this, but if Dynasty Warriors 8 Empires has 83 playable characters, I can't really see why Fire Emblem Warriors couldn't do the same. The game also seems to be lacking in terms of playable unit varieties. Despite the enemy having Armored Knights, there are no playable Armored Knight characters. The same can be also said with spear-wielding Cavaliers or Paladins, and some of the characters in the game have also been reserved as DLC. Having characters already in the game as DLC is a small pet peeve of mine too. It also doesn't help that some characters and enemies tend to share the same movesets as well. Though thankfully in regard to special moves they do look visually different, and the same can be said about joint special attacks. I also found that changing the difficulty didn't really change a great deal either. I played through a fair chunk of the game on normal before switching to hard, and aside from the enemies dealing more damage to you, I couldn't really see any changes to the AI. AI grunts would just stand there and occasionally move around a little like the fodder they are, and with good tactical planning, even enemy commanders on hard or once you complete the game lunatic difficulty aren't much of a huge threat to you. The only difficulties I really had in the game was doing some of the historical missions where shadows of certain characters would attack your main base. The goal is to defeat the enemies summoning them, but unless you constantly keep your main camp guarded and the leader of that camp healed up, you'll have a hard time given that the enemies will take very little damage. Other than that, I don't really have much more to add here, so I think it's now time to give the opinion. Fire Emblem Warriors to me is a really good game from a gameplay mechanic point of view. Sadly, it does seem to be subpar with its casting, tending to pander to the Awakening and Fates crowd. In terms of bugs and issues, I found the game was pretty solid and rarely slowed down for me. The only issue I came across was this one part of a mission where I just restored a building. At the end of the day, if you like Dynasty Warriors and you like the later Fire Emblem games, then Fire Emblem Warriors is certainly a game to pick up. I don't think it's the cup of tea for people who may have liked the older games more than the newer ones. But who knows, if they ever develop a sequel, there's a possibility of having more characters from the other games making an appearance. Here's hoping this game does well enough to warrant that. So with that, it's time for my rating. Fire Emblem Warriors gets Kane's face from the first Fire Emblem game out of 10. Thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next Infinite Backlog review. If you enjoyed today's review, feel free to check out some of our other videos and subscribe for more. You can also follow us on Twitter, Instagram and our Facebook page. Once again, thank you for watching.